First of all, my name is Will Heninger, and I am the Outreach Coordinator for Mental Health at the University of Michigan Depression Center, and also graduated from U of M in 2011 and played football while I was attending school, and that will be part of my story for today. But I want to give a thank you to Scott and Julie Halpert for having me today, and to all of those who have put together such a tremendous program for this event. So without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about my story and how a place like Garrett Space would have and could have been so helpful to really so many individuals. So I have a brief time slot, and I apologize for having to accelerate through some of the details, but when I was 19, finished my freshman year at Michigan and moved home for the summer, and within about a week, I felt like I went from 100 to 0, just like that. And I didn't know what was wrong. I had, at the time, never heard of mental illness, never heard of depression, never heard of anxiety, and it just wasn't talked about. And so I thought that this was a test, a challenge, test of my toughness, similar to like an AP class or a hard workout, something along those lines. And I treated it as such, and as you might imagine, got really, really sick and got diagnosed with major depressive disorder. And eventually, after I stopped hiding it, was actually walked into life-saving help at Michigan football after breaking down at a practice. Got walked into a therapist's office named Barb Hansen, who really changed my life. And I told people for a long time that good medicine and good love and good support, good therapy is what got me better. And I really do believe that in a lot of ways. However, in the years after my time at college and reflecting and looking into other stories and understanding mental health more as a whole, I've come to realize that there was a lot more to my recovery, having experienced depression in adulthood and not having had the exact same types of support, and understanding those differences and how it's harder to get better, getting to why a place like Garrett Space can be so valuable and so healing. So as I continued to get good therapy and get on a medication that would work for me and go to school, starting to build bits of confidence, I realized that there were all these other components of well-being. Not at the time, I didn't understand it, but looking back, I understand it now, that for me came from football and from my life at school. Those being resilience and belonging, connection, purpose, time outdoors, obviously at practice, and physical exercise, eating pretty well, nutrition, and even getting my sleep back in order. And all of these things, these sort of gaps in treatment, in these areas that we can get support, all of these things are currently, in my opinion, areas where there are gaps in treatment, that we have our ambulatory care and we have therapy, and it's great that more and more individuals are embracing therapy and getting the care they need, and that stigma is being reduced so that an individual like myself who experiences major depression or anxiety or any other mental illness is more likely to get help sooner. However, as we go along our healing process, there is sort of this gap between your care and your real life, or the rest of your life. And a place like Garrett Space that doesn't feel clinical, that doesn't feel medical, but just feels comfortable, where you can be you and acknowledge the stressors or the things that you've been working on, but not feel so much like this is therapy and the rest of my life is over here, I really think helps bridge that gap back into a life that we like, that we can function in, that we choose to give effort to each day. And so when I learned about Garrett's space, when I understood the mission, it was something that I thought to myself, they just put words to the gaps that I've been noticing in hearing other people's stories of mental illness and treatment and recovery, finding those sort of soft supports, those other legs of the stool, if you will, in addition to therapy and medication and family support. It was hearing those sort of other versions, other types of support, and how key they were to people's stories of recovery. It made me realize, sort of on a holistic well-being level, how important, human connection really is, how important purpose is and belonging, and then also how detrimental it can be if you lack those things, especially in a vulnerable time when dealing with mental illness or trying to climb out of a difficult episode. And so I encourage you, if you are just learning about Garrett's space or you've known a little bit about it, to visit the website to get a little bit more involved. You can contact us at the University of Michigan Depression Center as well. We are working with Garrett's space and also other outreach and educational programs to improve mental health in the community. And on that note, I want to just touch on one of my sort of core beliefs about mental health and society and how we all do our part, which is that I think we all agree that we would be better off as a society if we were, say, this much mentally healthier, each of us on an individual level. And we can relate to the idea that if we were to maybe walk one more lap or get a little bit more exercise each day, we would all be a little bit physically healthier. And what are the things that we can do, as a society to improve our mental well-being on an individual basis, and then therefore on a collective and societal level, and to avoid the types of tragedies and heartache that we see when our brains aren't functioning the way that they're supposed to, and when we are not able to meet our human potential. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for the time and for listening. Encourage you to find a way to get involved and engaged in mental health in your communities, whether it's on a grassroots level or a more formal level. The more of us that are aware and knowledgeable in reducing stigma about mental health, the more likely we are as a society to get the care we need, to get it earlier. And we know that the earlier we identify mental illness and the earlier we get care and treatment, the better the outcomes are consistently across the board.